Hello book besties, welcome back to my channel. My name is Delaney if you are new here. Today's video I am so excited for because we're going to be talking about my favorite genre, romance. This video is going to be the ultimate guide to reading romance. We're going to talk through all my romance book recs, from standalones to interconnected standalones to series to tropes to favorite book couples. Like, we're going to be mentioning everything under the sun related to romance reading and romance books. I have a special love for romance because it is the genre that really got me back into reading. I have to credit Colleen Hoover, even though her books now that I'm like further back into reading probably wouldn't be my cup of tea. Reading her romance books, it all started with It Ends With Us. And from there, I was hooked, and it really kickstarted like my adult reading journey again. So romance books in general just have a special place in my heart. Thrillers are fun, fantasy's fun, literary fiction is fun, memoirs are fun, don't get me wrong, but there's something about a good romance that just does it for me. So if you are a fellow romance reader, this video is going to be absolutely perfect for you. Or if you're someone that is not really a romance reader and you're looking to get into the genre, I gotcha. I want to keep the intro short and sweet because I have so many books I want to talk about. So we're just going to hop right in. I think I'm going to divide this video by standalones, interconnected standalones, and then series at the end. So I think we're going to start with standalones and just go through some of my favorite standalone romances. So all these books are like no strings attached. Everything you need to know about the story is within those covers. And there's something special about that, like not needing to commit to a full series and picking up just one book and knowing that you have the full story within your hands. I love that. So I have quite a few standalone books that I'm going to recommend, and a lot of authors in general that I would recommend checking out their books because they write really consistently phenomenal standalone romances. First up, I have to mention Emily Henry. So here I have Book Lovers, Beach Read, and Happy Place. I personally had a very complicated relationship with Emily Henry until I read Happy Place. I had read Beach Read and I didn't love it. I thought it was okay. I had DNF'd Book Lovers, and then I read Happy Place and I fell in love with the story. I fell in love with the friendship, and I fell in love with the romance and the quotes in this story. Something about Happy Place was just different for me, and this book convinced me to revisit Emily Henry as a whole. So I actually ended up rereading Beach Read, and I loved it the second time around, and I pushed myself to get past like the 10-20% mark in Book Lovers, where I had DNF'd it prior, and I absolutely love this book as well. This was a 4-star read for me. Beach Read, I believe, was also a 4-star read for me, and I consider Happy Place to be a 5-star read for me. I love this book a lot. I know there's a lot of mixed opinions on this one, but I personally loved the depiction of friendship, and I loved the quotes at the very end of this book coming out of this man's mouth. So good. Emily Henry also has People We Meet on Vacation, which is a second chance friends to lovers. I believe it's dual timeline book as well. That one is just okay for me. That's my least favorite by far of the Emily Henry books. But that is another one written by her that a lot of people do enjoy. Book Lovers and Beach Read are fun because they're both bookish. Like, both the main characters in these stories are related to the book world in some way. Like in Beach Read, they're both authors, and in this one, I think they're an editor, and he's an editor and she's a literary agent, and they do not get along. So this is kind of a light-hearted enemies to lovers, and they're both bookish. This one is also somewhat enemies to lovers. It's more like opposites attract romance, I would say, for these. But they're bookish in this one as well. And then this one is a fake dating, very heavy on themes of friendship, second chance. I don't know what else I would even say about this. It's just really good. I love the quotes in this book in particular. The quotes are just amazing. Like, I was highlighting, annotating, underlining absolutely everything in this book. Really good. Okay, if we're gonna get through these books, I'm gonna need to not ramble as much as I am right now, so I will try to speed it up. And then another author is actually a favorite of all time for me, and that is Catherine Center. I love Catherine Center books because they read almost like women's literary fiction with a romance subplot, which I really love. She has the strongest female leads, and I fall in love with her female leads. I love them. I adore them with my whole heart. She just has such a way with words and such a way with writing that I am obsessed with. So I only have 3 of her books here, but I have read more than just these 3. However, here I have Hello Stranger, which I loved. This was 4 stars for me. I have The Rom-Commers, which this is actually an arc. It's not released at the time that I'm filming this book. I think it comes out in April. No, comes out in June. So this is soon to come out in June 2024. As I'm filming this, it might already be out if depending on when you're watching this, but I really enjoyed this one. I normally don't love like the Hollywood trope, but they are screenwriters in this one and I actually really adored this. And then I also have The Bodyguard. This is opposites attract, forced proximity, fake dating, one of us is famous, where she is actually his bodyguard and they have to fake date because of circumstances in this book. This is really, really fun, really flirty. I really like this book too. My favorite Catherine Center book is How to Walk Away, but I've read almost all of her books. I've also read Things You Save in a Fire or What You Save in a Fire or something like that. And there's another one too. It's a blue cover. I'll put it on the screen right here because I can't think of the title for some reason, but every single one of her books covers a deeper topic of some sort in a really beautiful way. Like somehow she remains true to like a rom-com style while covering deeper topics, and I think it's really beautifully done. Then I have Carly Fortune, and she's the author of Every Summer After and Meet Me at the Lake. I'm gonna be so honest, don't recommend reading this book. I didn't like it. Every Summer After I did like until I got to the conflict. I did not like the conflict in this book, but as a whole I would still recommend it. This is a second chance childhood friends to lovers, which if you know me, you know that's one of my favorite tropes in a romance. I am a sucker for it. So I really, really love this book. This was on track to be a 5-star read for me until I got to the conflict. I just didn't love it. If you know, you know. But I would still recommend it as a whole. I had a good time reading it. So definitely a standalone romance that I think is worth considering. Even though the conflict and the ending of the story wasn't my absolute favorite, I did still enjoy this book overall. Then I have The 7-Year Slip. This is an all-time favorite read. This is basically about a woman named Clementine who inherits her late aunt's New York apartment. Her aunt has always told her that this apartment is magical, that it's a pinch in time. And Clementine finds that out when she enters the apartment and she is transported 7 years in the past. When she's transported 7 years in the past, there's actually a man staying in the apartment and they form a bond and form a connection, but that's a problem because the second she leaves the apartment, she's back in the present day. In the present day, she's living her life, but she has like thoughts of this man. However, she only knows him 7 years prior. I don't know, something about this book, I thought it would be confusing. I wasn't sure if it would be too woo-woo or too out there, but I fell in love with this book. 6-star read for me, infinity star read. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Highly, 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 highly recommend. Okay, I always, in every single video, I'll have to stop and check that I'm not filming in 0.5 speed because, I did it like one too many times and now I'm paranoid. All right, another author that I adore and would recommend their standalone books is Taylor Jenkins Reid. She has a full like celebrity universe, which is like the popular Evelyn Hugo, Carrie Soto is back, Malibu Rising, like all of those are in that universe. But she has these standalone books that are really phenomenal in my opinion. I would argue maybe even better than some of her more popular books. So here I have After I Do, which is basically about Lauren and Ryan, I believe. Yes, Lauren and Ryan, and they are a married couple and basically their marriage is just not working. So they decide to take kind of an unconventional approach and take a year break where they are basically trial broken up. They don't live together anymore. They like split custody of their dog. They can see other people. They can do whatever they want. Basically, they are acting like they are completely single. The only rule they set is that they cannot contact each other for that entire year. Both their families are involved, and this brings into question like themes of marriage and true love and the meaning of different types of relationships. And there are so many deeper topics covered in this book in the most beautiful way. And I just love this story. I thought it was so unique and so beautifully done. 10 out of 10 would recommend reading this. Next, I have When True Loves, and this plotline is so unique in my opinion. This is basically about a woman, her name is Emma, and she is married to her high school sweetheart, and he ends up going away on some sort of like adventure expedition or something. Okay, so he's a production assistant on nature documentaries, so he ends up going away and he is involved in a plane crash and never shows up. So we're to assume that he has passed away. She is starting to grieve him and she moves on and she actually finds herself engaged to somebody else that she is deeply in love with. And then she gets a phone call that Jesse's alive. So this woman has a fiance and now a husband that she had grieved and thought had passed away, but he's alive and coming back into the picture. He obviously wants to like restart their marriage, like come back to his wife. She has this fiance that she's in love with. What the heck does she do? This kind of brings into question, like, how many loves do you get in a lifetime? Not to quote Magnolia Parks, which we're going to talk about later, but it's like, what is the concept of true love? Do you only have one soulmate? Do you only have one true love? Like, this plot is so dang good. Taylor Jenkins Reid does the most amazing job about writing this story. This was so good. I love this. And then last one for Taylor Jenkins Reid that I have is Forever Interrupted. And this is a heavy book. This is about a woman who loses her new husband very tragically. Lots of heavy depictions of grief in this book, but definitely a beautiful read if you are up to it. Like, this is heavy. I'm not gonna lie. It's a really heavy read, lots of grief, but if you are up to it, I think this is a really beautiful story, and it's definitely worth the read if it's not going to be too sensitive for you. I made a list on my phone. I need to make sure I'm not forgetting. Christina Lauren. Oh. Her books are back there. Okay, I have to get them. Now I have just a few random standalone books. First up, I have The Wish by Nicholas Sparks. If you follow me on TikTok, you've heard me talk about this book 5 gazillion times. This is one of my favorite books of all time. My favorite Nicholas Sparks book by far. Highly would recommend. This is another heavier read. Lots of depictions of grief. There's teen pregnancy. There's a lot of really complicated topics in this book. So don't expect like a lighthearted rom-com going into this, but if you want a more meaningful romance, this is phenomenal. A 5+ star read for me. And I have The Nanny, and this book is fun. This is a rom-com. This is spicy. This is smutty. This is basically about a woman who gets a job as a nanny for a single dad. Come to find out, she used to have an OnlyFans account, and he was a subscriber that she had connected with over Messenger. Like, they had formed a deep connection together through her OnlyFans account. She knows it's him. He doesn't know it's her because she was anonymous on her account. But now she's working as his nanny and watching his daughter. Lots of spice, lots of smut, but also really sweet at the same time. And I normally don't like kids in books, but the daughter in this book was really cute too. I enjoyed this more than I thought I would. I would highly recommend if you're looking for something just kind of fun and flirty and with lots of spice. Next, I have What Might Have Been by Holly Miller, and this is a really interesting story. It's about a woman who is faced with a choice between two men and, quite honestly, two totally different lifestyles. So one of them is like her one true love, like the love of her life that they had broken up and separated, but she has a chance to reconnect with him. The other one is a new guy, and she's faced with the decision not only with the men, but like if she wants to go to the big city and pursue a career or stay in her hometown and pursue her dreams as a writer. Like, so many big decisions have to be made, and she's at so many different crossroads. And this book is so unique because it truly explores the full storyline with both decisions that she could possibly make. So we have one storyline with the new guy that we follow, and we have another separate storyline with her first love and her true love. And we see the outcome of both. And this is unique because it really makes you think about like all those daily decisions that you make and how they can impact the path for the rest of your life. I don't know. This book was just super cool to explore the differences in like your life just based on one decision. That reminds me, there's another Taylor Jenkins Reid book that's very similar, and it's called Maybe in Another Life. That's a great standalone romance as well. Very similar concept to this, like someone who has to make a very hard decision between two different life paths, and we explore both life paths and like see the outcome of both of them. I'm doing a terrible job at explaining this, to be totally honest with you, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. But yes, Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid, very similar to this, and it's definitely worth mentioning. I forgot to mention that with the other TJR books. Next up, I have The Infinity Between Us, and this is another second chance childhood friends to lovers. This is set, I believe, in the summertime. Very similar to if you've read Every Summer After or Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. Very similar vibes to those books. Really sweet, really cute. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I ate it up. I think I read it in like a day and a half. Super quick read. And just a fun second chance childhood friends to lovers romance story. I'm a sucker for those every single time. I don't see this one talked about enough. I think I enjoyed this even more than Every Summer After, and I don't think this gets the hype it deserves. So definitely check that out if you're a fan of second chance childhood friends to lovers like I am. I need water and I need chapstick. Oh gosh. Another book that I want to mention that I don't think gets enough hype is 7 Days in June. This is another second chance. This is also a single parent trope. This has representation for chronic illness. This is also bookish. I think they're both authors in this one as well. And I love this story. I love these characters. I love this book. I love everything about this, and I don't know why it's not talked about more. I don't see people talking about this book nearly as much as I think they should. Highly, highly would recommend. This is one of my favorite standalone romances that I think I've ever read. Almost done with standalones, I promise, but another author is Christina Lauren. They, I think, are the queens of standalone romance. They're actually an author duo. I feel like a lot of people don't know that. It's actually, I think they're two best friends, Christina and Lauren, and they write under the name Christina Lauren. I've read almost all of their books, but I only own 3. So I have The Soulmate Equation, which is a really fun book. This is about soulmates, basically. It explores soulmates, but it's fake dating, lots of witty, flirty banter, super duper fun read. I have Love in Other Words, which I've mentioned multiple times throughout this video. You've probably heard of this one. Second Chance, Childhood Friends to Lovers. Heavier topics covered in this one. I would say this is their most emotional book, the least like lighthearted rom-com, but really, really a great book. My favorite book by them probably. It just has more depth and more meaning. So if you're wanting that, this is a great option. But if you're wanting lighthearted, fluffy, flirty, fun rom-coms, the rest of their books I think would be awesome. And I have The Honey Don't List, and this is a workplace romance, and opposites attract, somewhat enemies to lovers, I believe. I read this a really long time ago, so I'm not remembering everything about this, but this was another fun one. Also read The Half Night Stand. I've read Twice in a Blue Moon. I've read The True Love Experiment, which is kind of like a dating show one. That one's fun. On Honeymooners. There's so many books by them. I've read truly almost every single Christina Lauren book, I believe. They are all just ultimate rom-com vibes. And they're quick too. They're super fun on audio as well, because I feel like you can get somewhat sidetracked while listening to it and you don't miss too much of the plot. Like, it's still really easy to follow. So great audiobooks as well if you're an audiobooker. Audio reader? Audio book listener? I don't know. Then I will say Mia Sheridan books, and I've actually only read 2 of these. So I've read Archer's Voice, which is one of my favorite romance books. I love Archer's Voice so much. There's also a companion novel to this one, so I guess it's kind of an interconnected standalone series, but I still count it as a standalone. There's Travis, which is like the redemption novel for the brother in Archer's Voice. If you know, you'll understand. I also have Stinger, which I can attest to. I haven't read that one yet. And I have More Than Words, which I also haven't read yet. But Most of All You, I have read. This one was not as good, in my opinion, as Archer's Voice, but it was still enjoyable. It was just a little bit slow for me. So if you don't mind slower books, I also didn't love how clingy the man was. This is definitely a he falls first romance, but to the extent that he was a little bit excessive, in my opinion, at times. However, I did still enjoy it. I think it's like a solid 3 stars for me. I would recommend it as a standalone romance, but not one of those books that I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a must read. But if you're a fan of Mia Sheridan and you want a good standalone romance, check this out. My bookshelves are going to take so long to be put back together after this. Oof. Last but not least, I would recommend Lynn Painter books. She is a great romance author. She writes great romances. I would highly recommend checking her out. I read The Love Wager, and she has a lot of YA books, like Better Than the Movies. The titles are like escaping me right now, but Lynn Painter as a whole, definitely check out her books if you want rom-com vibes. She gives similar energy to me to like Christina Lauren, where if you just want something kind of light-hearted and just flirty and a lot of fun, Lynn Painter I think is a great option. Also good for minimal spice. Most of her books, not all of them, most of them are closed door with little to no spice. All right, I think those are all the standalone romances. I know I'm gonna think of like a trillion more the second I stop this video, but that should give you plenty to start with. I want to move into interconnected standalones now. I'm gonna pause this though and put some of these books back because like this is chaotic. Okay, I'm struggling. I'm like sweating. This is a lot of work. Moving into interconnected standalones. So if you're not familiar with that term, these are books that are technically in a series but can be read as standalones. So for example, I could totally pick up book 2 in one of these series and read it cover to cover and everything would make sense. But if I had started with book 1, book 2 would clearly be kind of a continuation. Oftentimes it's just a matter of like spoilers for side characters. So like, for example, if you read book 2, you're going to have spoilers. If you go back and read book 1, like some things will potentially be spoiled for you. However, we are reading romance, and I do feel like the pairings and the couples and like the happy ever after endings are usually somewhat predictable. And that's typically the extent of a spoiler, is like you'll see the couple from like book 1 in book 2. So like, you know, they ended up together. But all that to say, I have read many interconnected standalone series accidentally out of order when I didn't realize that they were a series, and I survived. I was fine. However, I want you to have the knowledge that I didn't have, so I will tell you these series and like the order you're supposed to read them in and all that jazz. It would not be a book video if I didn't talk about Abby Jimenez. She is probably in my top 3, without a doubt, in my top 3 all-time favorite authors, potentially my favorite author. I love her romances more than anything, and she has 2 interconnected standalone series that I'm going to recommend. So the first is the Friendzone series. This is not my favorite series by her, but it is really, really good. So we start with the Friendzone. This is book 1, and this is about Kristen and Josh, I believe. Yes. So she is the maid of honor in her friend's wedding, and he is the best man for the wedding, and they really butt heads. They don't get along. They're kind of polar opposites in many ways, but they are forced to work together for the wedding, forced to get to know each other, and sparks start to fly. This is flirty, this is fun, this is really, really cute. And I should mention, Abby Jimenez, very similar to Catherine Senner, covers heavy topics in every single one of her books, rather in depth, while somehow still managing to have it be funny and lighthearted and rom-com-y at the same time. Her books, just like Catherine Senner, will have me literally, wow. Her books, just like Catherine Senner, will have me literally laughing out loud on one page and then like sobbing, reaching for the tissues on the next. I don't know how they do it, but it's amazing. Book 2 in that series is the Happy Ever After playlist. This is actually my least favorite Abby Jimenez book as a whole. I just don't love the one of us is famous trope, and that's what this book is. He is famous. I just didn't love him, if I'm totally honest. However, I would recommend reading it. I would recommend reading this in order if you're going to read the full series. I just was not the biggest fan of him, but that's okay. You win some, you lose some. I wouldn't even say this is a loss. It's just not my like 5-6 star Abby Jimenez read. It was just okay for me. I think I gave this 3.5 stars. Lastly in that series, we have Life's Too Short, and this is a influencer and a lawyer, I believe. Yes, so this is Forced Proximity. They actually are neighbors in an apartment complex. She is struggling with an illness, so that's kind of like the deeper topic covered in this book. Lots of miscommunication in this book from what I remember, so if you don't love the miscommunication trope, this might frustrate you. I personally didn't mind this. I really, really enjoyed this book, and I love the dogs. Abby Jimenez always includes dogs in her books, and I'm here for it. I loved this. This was a really solid 4-star read for me. So that sums up the Friendzone series by Abby Jimenez, and then we have my favorite interconnected standalone series by Abby Jimenez, and that is the Part of Your World series. So we start with Part of Your World. I really like this book. This is a small town romance and so fun. This is about Alexis and Daniel, and they come from opposite worlds. Again, this is kind of like an opposites attract romance, and small town, lots of found family in this book. Really, really a cute, fun read. Book 2 in this series is my favorite Abby Jimenez book of all time, one of my favorite romances of all time, and that is Yours Truly. So this is Jacob and Brianna. I always forget her name. I don't know why I forget her name. Jacob, however, is the shining star of this book for me. Jacob has very severe anxiety, and as someone who also struggles with anxiety, I just thought that the representation of anxiety in this book was so well done. Like, you can tell Abby Jimenez like really did her research. She talked to a lot of people that have struggled with anxiety. I think she mentions that in like the end of this book, and you can tell because it was so relatable and so validating as someone who could relate to that struggle. And the way that Brianna loved him and cared for him and showed respect for his anxiety and tried to be there for him in any way possible, like, I love this story so much. I will love this story until the end of time. I will never stop talking about this. So good. Easily a 5-star read for me. I would give it 1,000,000 stars if I could. I adore this book. I adore Jacob. Last in that series is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. At the time I'm filming this, this is actually not out yet, but it comes out in like a week and a half. So it will probably be out if you're watching this, but This book is so good. I did a full reading vlog reading arcs, and I read the rom-commers, the Catherine Center book I talked about earlier, and this one in that vlog. So go check that out if you want like more in-depth thoughts and opinions on this book. But I love this so much. There were a couple moments of cringe with the man in this book. I will say he gave me the minor ick a couple of times, but as a whole, this book is absolutely phenomenal. I love this. Abby Jimenez did it again. Next up, I have the Influencer series by Amy Leah. So we start with Set on You, and this follows a plus size fitness influencer. Then we go into X's and O's, and this is a firefighter romance and a book influencer. This one is my personal favorite in the series. I love this one. Then we go into the last one that just came out, and that is The Catch, and this is a fashion influencer. Set on You is somewhat enemies to lovers. They just really kind of butt heads at the start of the story. This one was really flirty and cute. Lots of topics around like body image and body confidence, and I really like that being talked about in a book. That's something I've also struggled with, so that was kind of cool to read about. I really enjoyed this one. It's like a 3.5 star for me, 4 star, super duper fun read. X's and O's is the middle book in the series. It's my personal favorite. Forced proximity, they're actually roommates dating other people. She is a book influencer and like gets the idea to pursue her own second chance romance. So she commits to dating all her exes while simultaneously living with, what's his name? Trevor? Wow, that was good memory. While she's simultaneously living with Trevor, this firefighter, and forced proximity. He's watching her date all these other people. Yeah, you can imagine. Last one is The Catch, and I can't give too much description of this other than I'm getting small town energy. Currently on chapter like 5 of this. I'm enjoying it so far, but I can't give full opinions because I'm like literally at the start of it right now. These are so fun, flirty, super duper cute banter. They will make you laugh out loud. Great romances. Next up, I have the Chestnut Springs series. So this is a small town cowboy romance series. Can't say a ton about this because I've personally only read the first book, but I have all of them and I'm going to get to all of them. I know I am. Each book has like slightly different trope. Like we have a single dad in one of them. I think we have a nanny trope. Like there's a lot of different tropes in this series, so I feel like there's going to be a book for everybody. But as a whole, this is like found family, small town, cowboy romance is how I would describe this interconnected standalone series. I'm sure you've heard of this. This is so loved. Also lots of spice in this one, so only read this if you are a fan of spice. Then I have the Off-Campus series. I actually only have book 1 and I've only read book 1, so I thoroughly enjoyed this. However, I don't think I would want to read continual college hockey romances, which that's what this is. It's college sports romances. That's the whole series. I just don't love the college age. I don't love college romances. If you do, this series is great. I really enjoyed this book. I just tend to enjoy more adult romances, less in the college scene. However, if you're a college romance person or a sports romance, you will probably love this series. Then I have a Kennedy Ryan book. So it starts with Before I Let Go, and the second book is This Could Be Us. These are a little bit older romances, like their marriage, kids, those topics are kind of covered in these ones. Really great, deep, meaningful romances. I would say these are less on the rom-com spectrum, even though they do have like lighthearted, fun, flirty, funny moments. These cover more deeper topics. So if you're looking for a romance that's gonna like tug at the heartstrings a little bit more, these would be great. Then I have one of my favorite romance series of all time, and that is the Windy City series. So this is a professional sports romance series. The first book is my personal favorite. That is a big unpopular opinion. A lot of people think the first book is the worst book. I couldn't disagree more. First book is Mile High, and this is Xander's and Stevie's book. Xander's is a professional hockey player and she is a flight attendant for the team. Oh my gosh, I love their story. Stevie struggles with body image, and I thought it was like written really well in this book, the way that body image can present in adult relationships and in romantic relationships. I just adored Stevie. Xander's is externally very gruff, very rough around the edges, very playboy persona, and I think that's what turned a lot of people off of this book, but I just feel like I saw the sweet side of him underneath that, and he is just so sweet and so soft underneath his rough exterior. My heart just like ached for him and what he was going through in this book. I don't know. I just love this pairing. I love this duo. I love this book with my whole heart. Lots of spice in this one too, but really tastefully done in my opinion. So good. This was a 5-star for me easily. Second book is The Right Move, and this is actually Ryan Shea, who is Stevie's brother from the first book, and her best friend Indy, who is also a flight attendant for Xander's team. So Stevie's brother and best friend, and this is their romance, and he is a professional basketball player. This one was a very close second to me. This one has forced proximity and fake dating in it as well. I just thought this was so good. Another 5-star for me, easy. I don't know, I feel like this is just a tiny bit behind Mile High for me, but really close up there. I loved both of these books. And then we have book 3, Caught Up. This is Kai and Miller's book. We meet Kai in the first books. He is a professional baseball player. He's also a single dad. This is a single dad nanny trope. And this one was sweet. I really liked it. It wasn't as good for me personally. I didn't love it as much as the first two. This was a 4-star for me, so I definitely really loved it still. Like, I really enjoyed it. Just wasn't on the 5-star level like the first ones were. However, a really great third book in the series, and we're not done yet. There's more books to come. So this series is still a work in progress. I think we're getting 2 more books, which I'm very excited for. Highly would recommend this. Last but not least, for interconnected standalones, I would recommend Sarah Adams' books. So we have When in Rome is book 1, and then we have Practice Makes Perfect. This is small town, found family, just super sweet vibes, and these are closed door. So if you're not a big fan of spice, these are perfect for you. Very minimal spice. It's all fade to black. So basically, like, it might be mentioned or like briefly hinted at, but really no spicy, smutty scenes. These are just sweet, lighthearted, fun, flirty, super duper cute. Lots of like feel good found family too, which I love. Okay guys, I think we're almost done. I'm gonna put these books away. We're gonna jump into the final segment of series, like set series that you have to read in order. I'm tired. Wow, this video is really taking it out of me. All right, into the last and final chunk of this video, we're gonna be talking about my favorite romance series. So series are ones that you have to read in chronological order. Like you have to. Yeah, that's really series. You know what a book series is. First up, I'm going to start with a YA series, and that is If He Had Been With Me. I was hesitant to recommend this because I loved the first book. You will slap your eyes out. Trigger warning, you will be crying. This book is highly emotional, definitely made me cry. I really liked the first book. The second book is If Only I Had Told Her, and this is actually a newer release. I just vlogged this in, I think it was Reading Sad Books for a Week vlog. I believe that's what it was. If you want more in-depth opinions, definitely go watch that vlog, but I didn't love the second book. So I was hesitant to recommend this series, but I decided overall I still would. I do think it's still worth reading if you like YA romance and you're looking for a sad emotional read. Next, I actually have a fantasy romance, and that is the Divine Rivals duology. So we have Divine Rivals, and then we have Ruthless Vows. Again, I loved Divine Rivals, like 4.5, 5-star read for me. Ruthless Vows, I did not like. I gave this 2 stars. However, I am most definitely in the minority for this. I posted about this on TikTok, and most people loved book 2 equally, if not more, than book 1. So I did want to mention it because it does seem like it's just a me thing that I didn't love book 2. So you will probably really enjoy this series, and I think it's worth the read because I was like head over heels in love with the beauty of Divine Rivals. Ruthless Vows, for some reason or another, fell short for me. I think it's because I wanted more romance in the second book, but this is a beautiful romance fantasy set back. It's a wartime fantasy. I'm trying to think of like what characteristics I can give you of this book. It's basically about 2 people who have magic typewriters who can type on their typewriter, and their letters get sent to this other person who has the other typewriter. Does that make any sense? I don't know. I'm sure you've heard about these books. I, like I said, didn't love book 2, but I feel like I'm the only person in the world that didn't love book 2. So would definitely recommend checking these out because I thought book 1 was phenomenal, and most people think book 2 is phenomenal. So you probably will too. Go read them. Ooh, I feel like Shatter Me, the Shatter Me series, is kind of another romance fantasy that I would recommend as well. I didn't grab them. They're on my shelves and I'm not getting up again, but Shatter Me series is a really good one too. Aaron Warner has my whole heart. That is the first fantasy series I read as an adult. Really great. That's a dystopian fantasy, so lots of like politics and that type of thing. Really a great story though, and I love the romance in that. I love the characters in that. All right, and then I have the Magnolia Park series. I'm actually missing my Daisy Hates book because it is in my living room. I was reading it last night. So we have Magnolia Parks, and then we have Daisy Hates, then we have Magnolia Parks A Long Way Home, then we have Daisy Hates The Great Undoing, and then we have Magnolia Parks Into the Dark. And I think there's going to be 1 or 2 more Daisy Hates books to come. So the series is not done yet. I personally am only on book 2, but I'm loving this, and I have a feeling it's going to become one of my favorite series. The best way I can sum this up, as you may have heard, I feel like this is everyone's way that they describe this series, is Gossip Girl set in London. So very wealthy, high society, and it's set in London. We have a lot of toxic relationships. We have a lot of friendships, lots of found family, lots of drama, but it's just so darn entertaining. Like, it is so toxic, and I shouldn't love the couples and the pairings and the drama as much as I do, but I just eat it up. I can't put it down, and I can't stop thinking about it. Would highly recommend this series, but don't go into it expecting like swoon-worthy, healthy love, because it is definitely toxic, but I'm a sucker. I love it. All right, y'all. Last but not least, we have my very favorite series of all time, my very favorite books of all time, my favorite couples, my favorite everything of all time. That is the Addicted Calloway Sister series. So I just posted a full long, like 10-minute TikTok breaking down the reading order of the series, my favorite books in the series. So I will link that down below so you can go check that out there. I won't bore you with this becoming like a guide to the Addicted Calloway Sister series, but just know that this series has my whole heart. We follow 3 couples. We start with Lily and Lo. They are like the heart of the Addicted series, and then we meet Lily's siblings and their significant others in the Calloway Sister series, and you read them intermixed, if that makes sense. It's a 10-book series. We have 9 books and an epilogue novel, and the epilogue novel is my favorite book of all time. It's called Some Kind of Perfect. Absolute favorite book of all time. This series is just everything to me. They are wealthy. They live in Philadelphia. We have like some Kardashian energy going on, like reality TV show. We have addictions, we have friendships, we have relationships, we have complicated family dynamics, so much drama. Oh my gosh, it's so good. The Addicted series is definitely a character-driven series, I would say. Like, it's not the most exciting plot. There are exciting things that happen, like there's always something going on, but you're definitely reading because you love the characters. And I think that's why I loved it so much. I love the core 6. That's what we call the characters. We have Lily and Lauren, Rose and Connor, and Reich and Daisy. Reich and Daisy are my favorite book couple. She's my favorite book girl. He's my favorite book boy. Best book boyfriend of all time. Like, Reich Meadows has set the bar. Yeah, just read the Addicted Calloway Sister series. Like, trust me. I will, like I said, link that TikTok down below if you want more of like a guide or an explanation to the series, because it can be confusing if you're going into it blind. All right, y'all, that was a long book rec video, but I love my romance books, if you can't tell. So if you're also a romance reader or looking to become a romance reader, I hope this helped give you some more books to add to your TBR and get excited for. These are just some of my very favorite romances of all time, and hopefully they can bring some joy to you as well. Leave a comment down below telling me your favorite romance book or romance series, because Lord knows I'm always adding more to my TBR, and some more suggestions never hurt. So comment your faves down below. Don't forget to make sure you're following my TikTok, my Instagram, and my Goodreads, because I post way more live reading updates on there. And then here we get like the long form into the nitty gritty, more of like the sit and chat for hours long at this point. But yes, make sure you're following me on all the platforms, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future videos, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye, book besties.